Okay, we're live. I know. I'm here with Amber for now. She's not going to be here for long. Some people are a lot like clouds, clouds, 'Cause life's so much brighter when they go. I know. Thanks, Amber. I didn't know we were live. I needed you to tell me. Thank you for letting me know. I know you see me because you just texted me. So I know. And there's no one even here. So it's okay. No one's gonna come anyway. They always say they're going to. And they never do. It's so weird because I'll go live. Excuse me. And it says there were 6 people there. Oh, and Rory's here. I have to make you... I need to be able to click on Rory's name, you mother. Oh my god. Why is everything so tedious? Open in browser, you mother. Okay. Oh, all this streaming stuff. Well, it's a good thing no one's here anyway. No one will see all this stuff. Now let's see. Oh my god. Why is everything so difficult? How do I make you a moderator, Rory? Trying to make you a moderator. Rory. How do I make you a moderator on here? You see how Amber has a little crescent wrench next to her name? I need to put a little crescent wrench next to your name. Because you're grinding my gears. You feel me? What action cannot be performed? Live chat. Welcome to live chat. Remember to guard your... I know. How did I make you a mod, Amber? How did I do that? How did I do that? Well, it's good. Oh, okay. Well, there are some people here. So I don't know. We'll have to figure out how to make you a moderator later. Because then we got to start talking about stuff and doing stuff. Because otherwise people are going to lose their goddamn minds, We got to get to live chart readings. But I wanted to talk about progressions. Progressions. I wanted to talk a little bit about secondary progressions. It's a very interesting topic. It's an amazing technique. It's one of the primary techniques I like to use in readings as far as timing, right? Transits are the most popular timing technique, right? I mean, duh. Transits. Everyone's like, what's going on in your transits, right? I think you clicked on my username. Well, last time I did. It's not letting me do that here, you see? I think I did that on YouTube. Anyway, I don't want to do... See, people are leaving now. It's just, Don't worry, it's apple juice. Anyway. Well, I'm going to make a clip out of this, so fuck you. If you're not here, I don't care. I'm going to make a clip out of this about progressions, you see? So anyway, the thing about progressions is... Anyway. I'm going to begin again. I wanted to talk a little bit about secondary progressions. It's a really interesting topic. And it's one of the primary techniques I use, timing techniques, in my readings with clients, right? In fact, we know that the most popular timing technique is transits, right? Where are my transits right now? But the second most popular timing technique are what are called secondary progressions, or we just call them progressions for short, you see. And it's sort of it's a complicated sort of calculation that goes into it. But the concept is relatively simple. You see, basically a day equals a year. And it's even alluded to, according to some, right? In the book of Genesis, where they say similar things, like a day for a year or whatever, you know? But the amazing thing about it is how much you can map someone's life by progressions. You could see big events, right? You can see when they're going to be. You can't necessarily see what they're going to be. It's more of a general thing. But it's pretty cool because you can see climactic moments in people's lives. Climactic, you know, like climax. Like a climax, right? But like I said, a day equals a year. So we essentially take the first 90 to 100 days of life, right? However long we think you would live in terms of years. And each of those days becomes representative of the corresponding year of life, right? So that day you took your first breath, right? When you were just born, we take all those transits and we stretch them out over that whole first year, right? So what does that mean mathematically? Well, it means the progressed sun moves about a degree a year, right? While the progressed moon moves about a degree a month, right? As opposed to, the sun moves what, like about a degree a day, and the moon, what, like a degree an hour or something, or a degree every 2 hours? I can't remember. But you see, it's sort of proportional. And the other planets move at proportional speeds as well, you see? It's really interesting stuff. And so we look out for three primary things, because everything is slowed down, you see? All the planets move very slow, you see? And these have to do more with big events in our lives, right? They indicate, key times when big things tend to happen, you see? Now, there's three main things we look for with progressions. We look for planets changing signs, of course, and we do whole sign houses here, yes. So, of course, that means changing houses as well. We also look for them stationing retrograde or direct. That's a big deal, yeah. Everyone should have Mercury. Well, not everyone, because we all have different lifespans, but most people have Mercury go retrograde or direct by progression at least once in their lifetime. We also look for progressed lunations, yeah? That is, full moons and new moons by progression. And to me, these are probably the most interesting thing to look at in someone's progressed chart, because these are big life events, typically, right? You only have 2 or 3, progressed new moons or full moons in your lifetime, right? Just think of your life as like 3 months, right? Stretched out to 90 years, yeah? You would likely have 3 full moons and 3 new moons, or you might only have 2, you see? So these often, mine were fairly traumatic, my progressed new moon was when, my father unalived himself, and I started a job of 20 years. And then my progressed full moon was when my whole divorce thing started, right? Progressed full moons are like a high place, right? Sort of like, reaching a high point. You could say I had the job and the wife and the house and the child and the dog and the fence and the lawn, right? It's sort of a high point, but immediately after, then we have the fall. And then progressed new moons, right, are often like starting over from scratch. So like I said, my dad passed away and I started a new job that I would be at for 20 years. Everyone's are different. Mine were eclipses. So mine were especially traumatic, you see. But we should look at some of yours. You know, you people should put up your birth information so we can look at your progress charts and see when these high points were in your life. Now, the important thing about the retrograde and direct stations, you see, is they're also very few and far between, right? So Mars may not go direct or retrograde by progression at all in your life, right? Pardon me. A lot of people never have Saturn or Jupiter, let alone the outer planets, Pluto, Neptune, or Uranus, go direct by progression or retrograde by progression either. Now, hi, I'd love to learn about progressions. August the 3rd, 1983, 9:26 p.m., Santa Monica, in the city of Santa Monica. Keep me rocking. Keep me rocking. Excuse me. We'll look at your chart in just a second. Why don't we pull that up while we talk about this stuff? Because when I look, right, how do I have this arranged here? I'm going to hide it. Well, I don't want you to see my filthy room, you know. It's the last thing I want you to see. So what if I close that? What's going to happen? Well, you see that stuff. And that's not necessarily good either. Here we go. And notice how I'm not even waiting for Amber here, because she'd probably just... Oh, you were about to text me, huh? How does that help me right now? You were about to text me. That's very helpful, Amber. Thank you. I'm glad you were thinking of me. Ariel. It's Ariel. I think we had Ariel's chart up here at some point. 1983. When all you give a about is everybody else, and you just can't quit, why don't you deal with it? I think it's time to stop. You need a taste of your own medicine, 'cause I'm sick to death of swallowing. Oh, this is probably Amber. Thank you. You're too late, Amber. Thank you. Too late, though. Okay. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be mean to Amber. I just... It's our thing. It's how we, you know. Okay, Ariel. Let's put this chart up there. Taste of your own medicine, 'cause I'm sick to death of swallowing. Watch me take the wheel like you, not feel like you, act like nothing's real like you. So I'm sorry for this. It might sing a bit. You sing California too. I mean, it's in the city of Watts and all that, but like there was a funny version where they were putting in lots of, you know, affluent cities that I don't know if we consider Anna Monica I don't think we include Santa Monica as an affluent city anymore. Well, maybe we do. I don't know. I haven't been to LA in forever, you see. So anyway, so we have her chart up. Oh, but we need her progress chart. Anyway, so we'll use this as an example. First, we see if there's anything retrograde in her chart, right? We see Neptune's retrograde, we see Uranus is retrograde, and we see Venus was stationing retrograde in Virgo, right? Virgo. I don't know why I said it like that. I'm just goofy right now. But you see, she was stationing direct. So we would want to see if she, now, what year, 1983? I can't think about, I'm not sure. You see, Venus goes retrograde for 40 days at a time. So this would be like 40 years, you see, or something like that. I think Venus is actually, was Venus not as fast as this? I can't remember the Chaldean order. Anyway, Venus, right, could have been retrograde for 40 years, progressed years. But we'll look at that we'll look at that in just a second. The reason why this is so interesting is because with retrogrades, we think about planetary activations, right? The idea with retrogrades is that things are delayed, right? Oftentimes delayed till later in life. But until when, right? There's different ways to look at planetary activations. There's ways that you can use the triplicity lords, right? But there's also ways you can use progressions. Because oftentimes we say when a planet goes direct by progression, that's when it's good. Well, that's when its promises can get activated for good or for ill, really. But I like to say for good in my case because I have a very well dignified Jupiter who's retrograde, you know. But he eventually does station direct by progression. You see? So we need to see if your Venus, if and when she stations direct by progression, because she was just stationing retrograde. She was just stationing retrograde. Look at you, Pisces rising. Saturn's going through your first house right now, darling. I just want to say a few words really quick about Saturn going through the first house. Is anyone else saying anything? I request a reading. You love my vids and energy. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, thank you. Thank you. Anyway, I want to say a few words about Saturn going through the first house really quick. Because I went through this when Saturn went through Aquarius, you see. And it really is a trying time. But in my experience, but Saturn is the ruler of my rising sign. It was the most rewarding time. The big thing for me was I came out as trans during Saturn in my first house. Because it forces us to look at ourselves and our sense of self and our identity. We get deconstructed. Because when we look at identity, we see that it's mostly made up of conditions, of external conditions. Yeah? Things that we've acquired in life, things that we believe or think about ourselves or other people, right? We say, I'm this or I'm that, right? I'm an astrologer. I'm a trans woman, right? Is there more to you than that? Of course, that came out when I was having this transit like you're having. But it was more about facing myself, right? Facing ourselves. I contemplated death a lot. I even did an exercise where I imagined my death and what it would feel like, you see. I went through a whole inner sort of conversation with myself as a child. It was the strangest thing. And the whole thing was just really enlightening. And it sounds like hippie trippy bullshit, but there's more to it than that because it's about experience, right? And it's about recognition and realization when something becomes emergent in your consciousness, when something becomes obvious. Eureka! You can't unsee it, can you? Right? And that's what Saturn going through the first house is like. You can't unsee it. You have to see something about yourself that isn't comfortable. And we come to terms with these things, and hopefully by the end of it, and you really don't feel it till the end, right? So as you're going into 2025, perhaps you'll start to see some light at the end of the tunnel, right? But then we start to feel ourselves as more powerful beings, because Saturn really does have to do with power as well. he sits on us and he tears us apart. I mean, bit by bit, right? But eventually, the effort is worth it. If we use it in the right way, you can have unconscious suffering, right? Unconscious suffering just happens to you. And then you just say, woe is me, that sucked. I don't like that feeling, right? But conscious suffering is what we undertake in order to get a deeper or wider awareness of ourselves. Because we only see a sliver at any given time. And mostly because we inhibit ourselves, or we buffer ourselves, we insulate ourselves. That's the better word. We insulate ourselves from actually seeing ourselves because it's very uncomfortable. So Saturn going through the first house makes you see these sorts of things, right? Oh my God, I do that? No way. I don't do that. Or we justify, well, I did that because she's a bitch. She did this to me, so fuck her. Right? And we endlessly justify our stupid behavior and our crappy thoughts. And Saturn going through the first house makes these things apparent, right? And like I said before, we think about our mortality. We start to contemplate death. We think about what all these things sort of mean to us. Sometimes we lose weight. That's kind of nice, isn't it? But oftentimes we lose weight because we're depressed and we're not eating. So, and it's not all bad, right? We get a sense of maturity. Sometimes we start to feel old, right? We age during these times because Saturn represents aging, getting older. But also a bit, we think of Jupiter's wisdom, right? But Saturn has a different kind of wisdom. It's the melancholic wisdom. So we'll talk more about the progressions, but I wanted to mention this because I think other people need to see. Thank you, Ariel. Thank you. Thank you. And yes, please, donations are more than welcome. I love donations. Super thanks. Super chats. It makes this all worth it. I mean, I'm trying to keep this thing going. This little enterprise. And every little bit from you helps. I get by with a little help from my friends. Get high with a little help from my friends. Right? Anyway. It's the Beatles. The Beatles. The Beatles. John Lennon. What you gonna do? I don't know. This song I wrote. Anyway, John Lennon apparently wasn't a very good person. But, so I hope that's useful with all the Saturn going through your first house stuff, because it really is a life-changing time. And it's something to be appreciative of at the end, that you got through it. The other thing you have to be aware of, though, is if you have chronic illness, you get flare-ups. While Saturn was going through my first house, I was going through the worst bouts of my POTS, right? And Ehlers-Danlos and all that stuff. So just be aware, take care of yourself, get plenty of sleep, nutrition. Yeah. So anyway, really quickly though, I was using her as an example of progressions. So let's look at her progressed chart as of today. Taste of your own medicine, 'cause I'm sick to death of swallowing. Watch me take the wheel like you, not feel like you, act like nothing's real like you. So I'm sorry for this, it might sting a bit. Why does it look like, oh, okay, never mind. I love Ollie Sykes so much. I love Ollie Sykes. I love Ollie Sykes. I was singing Bring Me the Horizon. I love him. Okay, there we go. This is your progressed chart. So you might notice things have changed quite a bit. Right? So, you see, Venus is still retrograde here. Now, does Venus ever go direct by progression? So let's move forward some years. Okay. Ooh! Cookie crisp. Mm-hmm. It does. You see what I was saying about 40 years? Right? Because Venus goes retrograde for about 40 days at a time. And there's something very esoteric about that number 40. Right? You see, 40 is 4 times 10. 4 is the number of manifestation of matter, right? The square of matter, of earth, yeah. And 10 is the number of perfection. So we see in 40 the perfection of matter, don't we? And Venus is one of the most occult and mysterious esoteric planets, right? At least coming from the silly traditions I came from, right? Theosophy and esoteric astrology. And I have my own issues with theosophy at this point. If you don't know what theosophy is, you should really learn about it, at least historically, because it's the fundamental philosophical basis for modern astrology. And I know my Indian friends will hate for me to say this, but it's also a primary philosophical basis for Vedic astrology right now. Because what happened in the 1800s, right? In 1875, Madame Helena Blavatsky, who you may have heard of, right? She founded the Theosophical Society along with Colonel Steele Olcott, right? And it was based in India. Because the whole purpose of the Theosophical Society was to bridge the mystical traditions of the East and the West. You see? But in practice, from my understanding of the history, right, is it sort of turned out to be a bit of spiritual colonialism. You see, Alan Leo, one of the godfathers, right, of modern astrology, I mean, he wrote the primary books on modern astrology that all the boomer astrologers read who came up in the 60s. You see? The boomer astrologers born in the 40s, right? Like Liz Green, right? Liz Green was one of my heroes growing up when I was in my 20s. Liz Green was an Alice Bailey student. Alice Bailey was one of the primary teachers I studied for 17 years, right? She also was a protege of Theosophy, right? Or rather, someone who came from Theosophy and she was kicked out and started her own thing. Yeah? But the Theosophical Society had a big impact. You know, Annie Besant was the leader of the Theosophical Society after Madame Blavatsky. And Madame Blavatsky personally selected her. And she was an amazing woman. She was an early suffragette, one of the, original fighters for women's rights. She also was big on economic equality, right? She was a socialist. Gandhi, Mohandas Gandhi, who became known as Mahatma Gandhi, partly because of his association with Theosophy. Gandhi credits Annie Besant with being the driving force behind Indian independence, right? I mean, Gandhi said that, and it sounds rather colonial, doesn't it? Like, it sounds kind of... But you see, that had such a massive impact, the Theosophical Society did, on Indian culture and society, because, number one, Gandhi didn't read the Bhagavad Gita until he was told to by Annie Besant. He had a framed picture of Annie Besant on his wall, right? Now, Gandhi left the Theosophical Society because he saw it was a bunch of political nonsense, right? But still, it changed the world. And it changed India, obviously. So Alan Leo, as I was saying, the godfather of modern astrology, was a theosophist, and also a high-level theosophist. In fact, he was based at the headquarters in India. And what was he doing? He was sharing all of his astrological understanding and his work, you know, in India as well. And it made a big influence, right? It's a big reason why Vedic astrology has the 12-letter alphabet. You know, the signs equal houses sort of nonsense, right? It really kind of messed up Vedic astrology, I'm sorry to say. I mean, you could see how all these things bled into it. So, I'm not an expert on Vedic astrology. You know, I've done a lot of theosophy, and I've seen lots of Indian astrologers repeat these same things. I mean, these same techniques, rather. And the same rulerships, and the modern rulerships, and all these sorts of things. And the big thing to me is them using the signs equal houses, 12-letter alphabet nonsense. The 5th house is not Leo. Okay? And I hear Indian astrologers say these kinds of things all the time. You know? So, anyway, that's a little history lesson on this sort of stuff. I'm going to have to clip that to make a little video. Hi, Carmen. It's good to see you. Hello. Anyway, but we're talking about progressions. And the reason why I got so excited at Ariel's progress charts, excuse me, is because she's got this big event coming up here. You got a big event coming up here. So, what's the actual day? Because we need to help Ariel. Ariel. I always want to say it like Sebastian the Crab. So February 16th of 2026. It sounds like it's far away, but it's only a few years. You see? February of 2026, your Venus stations direct by progression in Leo. This is going to be a momentous time in your life. This is a once-in-a-lifetime fucking thing. So, you know, this is something to be... And when it's stationing direct, it's sort of like coming out of something, you know, re-emerging like a butterfly. Venus is our social nature. I think you're going to see yourself be more confident, be more popular in a way, or at least want to connect with people more if you've been hiding yourself inside, or if you felt perhaps like a little bit of an introvert or someone who's avoided a lot of social contact. Maybe you've been a little bit, I don't know. This is a 40-year-long thing, right? 10-4 birthdays. Interesting. But oh, October the 4th birthday? You guys have October the 4th? That's my dad's birthday. It's my dad's birthday. October the 4th. He's long since passed away. Yeah, I'll tell you one more thing, Ariel, and then we're going to move on, okay? We're going to look at... And I hope you can communicate with me. I hope you can, like, tell me... Because I'm going to ask you a couple questions here, sweetheart, okay? So be prepared to answer. And you don't have to share if you don't want to. I just want to see... I want to see if you recall your progressed new moon. Let me see. Let me see if I can get that new moon. I want to get it exactamundo. Well, I mean, it's 1 minute. Okay. So, July of 2017. Did anything big start happening the summer of 2017? It would have been a wild year, no? Did you have anything big happen? July 2017? Ariel, anything big happen? 2017? Hey, boo-boo. Sounds like it was a big year. Get your hands out of that picnic basket. That was Yogi Bear. I'm sorry. I don't even know Yogi Bear. None of you know Yogi Bear. How would you know? That's too old for you. I'm Saturn girl. I like old stuff. You know? Yes, separation from your husband. There you go. Now, the thing about, like I was saying, my progressed new moon, my dad passed by his own hand. So for some of us, these are traumatic events that make us feel like, oh, you've got to go. Well, that's no fun. Fine. Gotta go. I gotta go. Anyway, so these can be traumatic things where we feel like we start over again from scratch. You see? So this is also a really interesting, these things affect us, even though they can be traumatic. They affect us to the point where it, changes who we are as people. So you can pretty well time these sorts of things in progressions. And you can tell when really big things are going to happen. So we'll move on to the next person because I beat Ariel's chart to dizzity death. Amber, is there someone who's next? Is there someone who's next? Oh, Rama. Oh, thank you, Amber. Thank you. Rama. The Ramayana. Is there a list I should know about? Why don't we put things in the group chat? So I have Amber helping me and my brother Rory helping me. So hi. Hi, Rory. Hi, Amber. And I'm not very nice to either of them. I'm sorry. I'm not very nice to either of them. I tend to yell at them. Because I'm the trans Karen. I'm sorry. I'm the trans Karen. So we have Rama. The Ramayana. What is this silent call nonsense? Silenced call. I don't even know what that means. Silenced call. So 11/04/2001. So is that November the 4th? Because some people are international. And the only people in the world who put the month first seem to be Americans. So I'm going to assume that this is November the 4th, 2001. I graduated high school in 2001. Oh my God. I feel old. I feel old. 9:13 p.m. I feel old. November. Wonderful. Thank you, Rama. Thank you, Ram. Oh, you're from Minneapolis, so you're American. Minneapolis. Birthday on the 9th. Snatchamatarius. Hooray. 1976. We'll get that next. Amber, please write that down for me. And then Amber's got to leave halfway through because she's got a hot date. So. Wish I had one. Okay, let's look at this. So we'll see Rama's chart. Yes. Animate. Okay, properties. Properties. Okay, cool. So this is fun. We have Saturn retrograde here. We've got Jupiter retrograde here. Anyone else? No. No, 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 no. Oh, excuse me. But really quickly, I just want to, because I did this for Ariel, so I'll do it for Rama too. Saturn is going through your 9th house right now, transiting. So this is a time over the next few years of your life until, what, 2026-ish? That what you believe in is being deconstructed. You're going to come out of this going into the end of 2025 with a new worldview, with believing in different things. It could be politics, it could be religion or spirituality. But you're going to be going in now. You're going to be having your worldview taken apart or challenged in some way. It might be painful. Might be uncomfortable being wrong, but before you're right, you have to be wrong. And really, we're never right. We're just learning to be less wrong. You know? I think of truth as like limits in geometry or whatever, right? You know, we have these things called parabolas, and they will endlessly approach, right? They'll endlessly approach the y-axis, but they never ever get there. And that's how I think about this, is we always approximate truth. And this is a very Saturn ninth house thing, because oftentimes we lose our sense of meaning. We lose God oftentimes. We can get very scientific or incredulous. I have natal Saturn in the ninth house. We don't like to believe in things, you know. So what you believe in right now is slowly being stripped away, and you're going to come out of it with a deeper understanding, not just of yourself, but, well, I mean, that's the most important thing, really, because philosophy is based on our understanding of self, by and large, and our relationship to it, you see. But the ninth house is about God. And Saturn going through there is a struggle with God, you know. So, but it's through the struggles, the dark nights of the soul, right? Father, why hast thou forsaken me? Right? As we're told, Jesus exclaimed, right? From the cross. And that's what Saturn going through the ninth house feels like. Why hast thou forsaken me? Because what you thought before was wrong. It suited you in your previous condition, and now it doesn't suit you anymore. You know, it's like you're outgrowing your skin a little bit, like snakes. You know, they have to shed their skin every once in a while. So, anyway, I hope that's sort of helpful, but let's look and see if Saturn or Jupiter ever go direct by progression. I'm going to bet, yes, there's definitely been an inner paradigm shift. Yeah, but see, you're still in the early stages, sweetheart. You're still in the early stages. It's going to get deeper. Right? You can't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes, you just might find you get what you need, right? Oh, yeah. But that's what it is, you know? Anyway, the important thing, though, is that we learn things from it. We can get a little bit more tolerant. Not even necessarily tolerant. If people have stupid beliefs, you call them out for being stupid, right? Doesn't mean you don't call out BS. It just means you understand people's thinking more and why they believe what they believe and where it comes from. You understand motivations more. That's the thing, you see. So anyway, but what I wanted to talk about here was your progressions. Your progressions. Progressions. Excuse me. Sorry. And I just can't quit. Why don't you deal with it? I think you'd like to stop. You need a taste of your own medicine. 'Cause I'm sick to death of swallowing. Watch me take the wheel like you, not feel like you. Act like nothing's real like you. So I'm sorry for this. Or something like that. Where he goes, the rapper guy goes, finally someone let me out of my cage, right? That's what it feels like. It feels like you've suddenly been let out of confinement. So I'm getting hot in here. You can see I'm getting flushed. I have to. So But that's what it feels like. It feels like being let out of confinement. And then Jupiter, if Jupiter ever goes direct by progression, mine does when I'm 60. So that'll be wonderful when I'm 60. Right? Maybe 60 will be the new 40. I don't know. I'm 40 now. They say the 40 is the new 20. I'm like, well, I don't feel like I'm 20. So. The only reason I look young is because I'm a Gemini. Taste of your own medicine. Now, Barack Obama, his progressed Jupiter went direct by progression when he was elected president. That's pretty interesting, you see? And then his progressed Saturn stationed retrograde when Trump got elected. So that's sort of funny too. But let's take a look and see if this ever happens for you. So we're going to go ahead into the future 10 years. And they didn't go. So we'll go ahead another 10 years. But 20 years into the future, going past that, it's probably not too fun. So no, they probably don't. Let's go to 30 years. No, we're at 2053. I don't know. Let's try one more time then. Nope. 2063. So no, they probably don't go direct by progression in your lifetime. However, you have lots of other interesting things that happen. So let's look at some of those, right? Let's go back to here. Done. So, I'm going to ask you some questions. Sorry, I have a hiatal hernia. Like, everything gets stuck right here. And I'm like, you know, it's really uncomfortable. So, but it is what it is. Anyway, so we're going to look for some progressed lunations or anything changing signs. Ooh, this just happened. Look at that. Look at that. That just happened. Sorry. It was Will Ferrell. Shake and bake. Right, it was from Ricky Bobby. You're not first, you're last. I'm sorry. I think in terms of movies. I was raised by television. You know, I was raised by 1980s and 1990s television. So, although Talladega Nights was, I think, 2000. So, yeah. But your progressed Mercury went into Sagittarius very recently. When was this? This was June, the summer of this year. So this has been pretty significant, yeah? I'd like you to answer me and tell me if anything really big happened going into July, you know? You sorry you were glitching out? Well, it's Mercury retrograde, so yeah, shit's glitching out all over the place, you know? I mean, Mercury's retrograde right now, and everyone freaks out about Mercury retrograde. But what's the big deal with it, right? I say two main things. Don't drop your phone. And don't sign anything that you're not absolutely sure about, right? Progressed lunations. You want to look at a progressed lunation? Yeah, we'll look at that too. But I just noticed that this just happened. Look, you see progressed Mercury just went into Sagittarius at the end of June of this year. Also, for me, right, this year, my progressed Mercury went into Cancer, right? So it's the more feeling mind, right? For you, it's a lot more ADHD. Yeah. But you may have noticed what just happened. Mercury went into Sagittarius, your progressed Mercury. So you may notice your mind all of a sudden gets quicker, but you may need to take more effort to get organized, right? You might be very clever, you see, but at the same time, you don't want to be your own worst enemy, because Mercury in Sagittarius oftentimes is, people who have very little attention span and need to work very hard at focusing, You see. So anyway, this is progressed Mercury, progressed for you, okay, going into Sagittarius. This is something particular to you. Meanwhile, transit Mercury is retrograde in Capricorn. You see? Those are two different things. I just want to make sure that's clear. Where did everyone go? Motherfuckers, dude. It's like 5 people all of a sudden. There were 13 people. Where'd all these assholes go? You better have dates. Anyway. So. What are you going to do, you know? So. You did get diagnosed this past November with ADHD finally. Well, I mean, that's interesting. It would be more pronounced now. Do I want to move on to MZ Colston? Yeah, sure. Okay. Yes, I do. But I'm just going to mention one progressed lunation quick. You see, I'm doing this, but I'm not I'm talking about things as I do it. This isn't like speed fucking dating or something. Like, you know, let me quick come on your face. I shouldn't say shit like that. Why did I even say that? Ugh. I have to edit that out. But you know what I'm saying? It's like people just want it now. Like, we're talking about things. There's interesting stuff going on. And these lives aren't just for people to get a bunch of nonsense. It's also like, you know. Anyway. So your progressed new moon, December, right? Christmas Eve of 2011. So going into 2012, 2012 would probably be a significant year. So, I mean, I'm talking Christmas Eve of 2011. Christmas Eve of 2011. And then your progressed full moon is going to be in 2027. So you got some big stuff coming up. But yeah, we got to get to MZ Colston. MZ Colston. LT Smash. Lieutenant Smash. That's right. Lieutenant LT Smash. That's from The Simpsons. Oh my god, I hate when that shit happens. Yo. Yo. Snatchamatarius. Taste of your own medicine. And Rory, thank you for nudging me along. I'm sorry. Like, I get on a roll. You know. I get on a roll. I'm rolling, 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 rolling. Keep rolling, rolling, rolling. I hate Fred Durst. What are they called? Limp Bizkit? I don't know why I got that stuck in my head. Keep rolling, rolling, rolling. And where was New Orleans? Nolans. 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 Thank you, Dave. I appreciate that. Dave Gentry says, hi, Saturn girl. I love listening to you. Well, thank you. I'm glad. 2 more fucking people left. The hell's people's problems? Jesus Christ. Anyway. So I cut my teeth and bit my tongue till my mouth was dripping blood. When all you give a shit about is everybody else. And you just can't quit. Why don't you deal with it? Okay, here we go. Properties. So this is MZ Colston. Oh wait, where did it go? Well, thank you, Dave. I appreciate that. Dave says, hang in there. They'll regret leaving. I mean, it is what it is. You know. If you're interesting, people will pay attention. I must not be that interesting. I think I'm interesting. What do I know? I'm mentally ill. So. Anyway, so MZ Colston has a Cancer rising. Is there anything retrograde here that we're looking at for some progressions? I don't see anything retrograde. Oh, excuse me. I don't see anything retrograde. Oh, wait. Saturn's retrograde. So we'll take a look at Saturn. And it's a very unhappy Saturn in Leo, you see. One time we talked about dignities, and it's not a very well dignified Saturn. Although Saturn is trine the Sun, probably not afraid of a little hard work, right? When I complain about breaking a nail, you're like, oh, God. Get on with it, you know. Venus in Aquarius conjunct my ascendant. Look at you. We would probably be good friends. We probably would. So, well, anyway. Saturn's going through what? I'll just mention this quickly for you. Through your 9th house, too. We already talked about Saturn in the 9th house, so you probably heard all that. But let's look at your progress chart, shall we? Oh, yeah, Jupiter retrograde, too. And you're having your Jupiter return. So this is a fun, auspicious time. This should be wonderful for your social life. This should be hopefully getting you out of your shell a little bit, you know. I mean, you're a Sagittarius. When we see planets sort of hanging below the horizon, we think of someone who's more introverted, but you're also a Sagittarius. So I bet there is a very social, extroverted side of you. But it would be way more pronounced right now with Jupiter going through your 11th house until May, right? So, coming up. But let's talk about progressions. Let's talk about progression. Okay. All you give a shit about is everybody else. And you just can't quit. Oh my gosh. We have a great example here. Hooray! Your progressed Jupiter went direct. Hopefully it went direct relatively recently, because a lot of times it went direct when people were very young children and we don't really have anything to talk about because kids don't remember, you know. But let's see. Let's go back 10 years. Hopefully it happened within the last 10 years. That was when it was happening. Okay. How old are you? Did we say I don't remember what we said. 76. 1976. Perfect. So this is good. This is good. So 10 years ago, you know, what are we, 40? I'm 40. And you're 7 years older than me, so you're 47 or 48, right? So 10 years ago, this would have been your late 30s. So this is cool. This is cool. Now let's see. Month. There we go. There's the good Jupiter. That's a good Jupiter. Going direct. By progression. This see, you should be really, this happens in so few people's lives, right? So this would have happened at the end of May 2013, just after my birthday. So anything big happen? 47, cool. Anything big happen? Spring, summer 2013? Yeah. 2013? It's when my daughter was born. Big time for me. I'll wait for you to say something, but I'm going to keep on talking because it's still, I don't want to, I hate dead air. right? When you're, because people will watch some of this later. It's so weird because every time I do one of these, it says there's 7 motherfuckers here. And then I go back to it and it's got like 200 views. So it's like, why does it say 7? And then all of a sudden there's 200 motherfuckers that went through this shit. Anyway, so I'm getting a little too licentious here. Simmer down. So I would have expected the end of May, going into that whole summer of 2013, to have been a very significant time. I would have expected, like I said, oftentimes we feel like a little guru, you know. It's when Obama got elected during his. You see, you can't remember right now, so don't. If you can't remember, it's not bothered. Does Saturn ever go direct by progression? No. 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 We're at 2083, so no. Saturn does not go direct by progression. Let's go back to 2023. How about 2024? What's going on right now, if anything? Let's look at your progressed new moon. Wasn't that long ago. Or, I mean, it kind of was. 2017. So going into the summer of 2017, perhaps. Was that an especially significant time? Summer 2017. Hopefully you remember that. Otherwise, I'll move on to... Bye, Amber. Bye, Amber. You can go spell things incorrectly somewhere else now. Bye. I love you. Anyway, what time is it? We got an hour left. We have an hour left. So we still got time. So please put your birth information in there if you want to look at your progressions. And other things in your chart too. I'm talking about other stuff. Excuse me. I will be back in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. 1 second. I'm moonwalking. Oh, 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 oh. Well, Amber's gone, so now we can do the real interesting stuff. Awesome. MZ Colston. Your mother passed away on April 1st, 2017. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. Yeah, that's rough. So, did that feel like starting over from scratch again? Did it kind of feel like that? Joseph Michael Calhoun. Sweetheart, Joseph Michael Calhoun. I don't understand that. Please type it out as date, time, city, if you can. Because I don't know what 57-1966 is. Is that May 7th? Just, yeah, you can enter it in the chat. Unless you're uncomfortable. Irene, if you're uncomfortable entering it in the chat. What could we do? You could email me. Because my email's public. So it did feel like starting over from scratch. It did, MZ Colston. Yeah. It's a very difficult thing. I'm sorry. You see, my dad passed away at my progressed new moon. So that does happen. We do have traumatic events that do happen, you know. You're fine. Thank you, Irene. Am I saying that correctly? Is it Irene? Irene McBean? So, Joseph or Michael Calhoun, I see, was that June 17th, 1966? So you gave me the date, but how about the birth time and the birth city? So date, time, city. So thank you, Rory. Thank you. Birth times. Yes, we need birth times. And exactly like this. Date, time, city. Right? So let's use me as an example. You know, Saturn Girl, May 22nd, 1983, 11:58 p.m., San Diego, California. Right? Irene McBean. Yes, Irene does have hers there. Let me write it down. Where's my notepad? Typically. Oh, wait, that's... Here's my notepad. And where's my pen? Irene McBean. Irene McBean. Irene McBean. 1:31:63, 8 p.m. Southampton. Southampton. And then, oh, you don't know your birth time, Mike? I'm so sorry. Well, we'll look at the day. But it's so difficult to do it without a birth time because the birth time determines all your houses. God, I feel so fat. Ugh. I didn't exercise for a while. Ugh, God. Anyway, I'm just whining about myself, you see. We'll still look at Mike without the birth time, but Norfolk, Virginia for Mike. Norfolk, Virginia. 1966. Norfolk. 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 I'm just saying Norfolk. That's all. Norfolk. All right. You're adorable. Stop. Yeah. I wish I could stop. I really wish I could. I'd probably be more successful if I could stop and manage this whole thing. You know. I'm just insane. Insane in membrane. Insane. Got no brain. I used to like Cypress Hill. I saw Cypress Hill live one time. Back in the, what? Early 2000s. 1963. 8 p.m. Southampton. Southampton, New York. Is that, wait. How is this? Southampton, New York. It doesn't like this. It doesn't like this city. It doesn't like Southampton, Sam-I-am. It doesn't like green eggs and ham. Southampton. And see, now it's telling me all kinds of weird shit here. I don't see a Southampton. Solar Fire, what's up? I don't see a Southampton, New York. Irene, I don't see Southampton. Is that really the place? Is that really the place? You're welcome, MZ Colston. You're welcome. Sailors used to say the same thing, Norfolk. Yeah. Cottonmouth Kings. We're the Cottonmouth Kings that we don't give. Right? Southampton doesn't come out, sweetheart. Southampton. And then it brings up all these other things. South Owego, South Oxford, South Ozone Park, South Park, South Plainage, South Plattsburgh, South Plymouth, South Richmond Hill. 1H, not 2. Well, thank you. Yes, that would have been helpful. Southampton. Southampton. It's like planetarium. The planetarium. Oh, now it came up. So there we go. And he just can't quit. Why don't you get a grip? I think it's time to stop. You need a taste of your own medicine. Look at that. You got Pluto conjunct your ascendant like my daughter does. I have Pluto square my ascendant, right? We have issues, don't we, Irene? It's on Long Island. Of course you're from Long Island. I'm got nothing against Long Island. Y'all just seem to like George Santos. I don't know why you elected him. Long Island is one of those interesting places, you know. Anyway, sorry. I just like to give people. I mean, I'm from California. What? Just as bad as Long Island, San Diego is. Long Island is almost a little like San Diego, isn't it? In some ways. You know? Montauk. Montauk, though. Yeah, but you had a beach, didn't you? You know, you had the coast. Anyway, when you see Pluto on the ascendant like that, it's a difficult life, you know. I mean, it's just a life of being shattered over and over and over again. Now, it's interesting, too, because we have power issues quite frequently. Usually because we felt powerless as children. And then as we get older, we want control. But the other thing about that is we want to be controlled and we want control, don't we? We want someone to dominate us, but we want to tell them how to do it. You know? It's an interesting thing. You know, it does... Oh, you lived on an Air Force base. Oh, when it was still an Air Force base, yeah. Well, there's all kinds of wacky stuff about Montauk and all that conspiracy theories and whatever. So... But, yeah, we came from a military family ourselves. So. But you see, Pluto conjunct the ascendant can be quite creepy. And it puts people off, doesn't it? You know, because it has a very powerful presence. And, you know, you might walk into a room and other women would be like, well, who the does she think she is? Screw her. You know? Because it has just that unspoken presence thing. 58 years ago, 1963. I think my sister was born 1965. I'm 1983, so you're 20 years older than me. But anyway, do you have anything retrograde? You got Mars retrograde. You got Pluto and Uranus retrograde. Pluto and Uranus. You got Sun conjunct Saturn. I always think of that as resting bitch face, you know. Sun conjunct Saturn, though, these people can have discipline, you know. One of my good friends was a Marine. Sun conjunct Saturn in Gemini. And he had a bit of a drinking problem. Like, he would go wackadoodle. You know, and he was a big guy and he'd cause trouble. So just one day he decided no more drinking. And he never drank again. Right? It just some people have that discipline. And we frequently see that with Sun conjunct Saturn. We do. But there's probably you also got Mars opposite those too. So anyway, everything is difficult for you. You know, life just is a pain in the ass. Nothing comes easily. You have to work hard for everything. But it builds character, you know. Once you decide to, yeah, you have discipline. Yeah, you have to make that decision, don't you? But you struggle with yourself because what you want and what you know you should do are just diametrically opposed. And they are for most people. But it's just obvious in your chart with this Mars opposite the Sun Saturn thing, you see? Your mother got sick when you're about to be born, and I was born early 3 months, and I was the size of a baby. Oh, I'm so sorry, darling. And we'll look at your chart in just a second, sweetheart. I'm sorry. Anyway, so we want to see if and when Mars goes to... Oh, and you have Mercury. I forgot. I didn't see that. Yeah, Mercury there. Yes. Mercury was stationing retrograde. I was born with Mercury retrograde. When Mercury's retrograde by transit, we tend to be better understood. You see? So let's look at your progressions now. Progressions. You need a taste of your own medicine. There we go. So let's see. You are sort of approaching a progressed full moon in the next year or two. 2 years. 3 years. 4 years. Excuse me. But Mars did go direct by progression. Let's see when that happened. Rory, when you say be right back, it makes me nervous. So when did this happen? 2006. We'll call it October 2006. Your Mars station direct by progression. This is a once-in-a-lifetime thing, you see. Now, what happened towards the end of 2006? Were there any significant events that correlated with this? Because I imagine there would be. When Mars goes direct by progression, it feels like we have direction again. You know, it feels like we are less inhibited, right? It feels like we can move forward. It feels like we can do things, right? We stop standing in our own way so much, right? Progress full moon is, well, it can either be very traumatic or it can be like a high point in life. So, well, what year were you born? Okay, you were born back in the 60s. So we can look at this progressed full moon. And hopefully you'll remember this. So this would have been May 2000 when this happened. So year 2000, starting in the spring, suddenly had a lot of stuff starting to work out for me that had been working towards well in 2006. So that's Mars, right? All that stuff going forward. Because when Mars is retrograde, it feels like things can't get done. You know, we don't have momentum. We don't have drive. We don't have passion. Right? Everything's just sort of tedious. So, but then your progressed full moon, right? Which is often like a high point, sort of like a crescendo or climax. That was in May of 2000. So do you remember anything about spring of 2000? Do you remember? Do you remember? What song was that? Remember? Something up to my love. What was that? Who sang that? It's gonna bug the heck out of me. Ugh. It was like a disco era song. Oh. It was like a disco era song. Can I find the hole? Can I find the hole? Where's the hole? Come on, dude. Or I'm just gonna look like a pirate. There we go. I found the hole. I always find them. I do. I unite halves into a whole. So anyway, yeah, this would have been a significant year. You don't sleep well. It's been while I've slept. Or days. I don't know. That's when you started homeschooling your youngest. It was a great decision for the family. Ton of work, but worth it. Well, yeah, sounds like it. I would never do it because I don't have that sort of gumption, you know. And plus, if I were teaching her things, it would be, it would be like astrology and, Raja Yoga. That's the yoga of the mind. You see? Raja Yoga. The kingly science of the soul. I mean, I'm a dirty slut, but, I still do this other stuff. So anyway, it was a ton of work, but worth it. I mean, that's quite amazing. We should look at Mike Calhoun in just a second. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything interesting. Did you have any other planets that were retrograde besides Mars? I mean, there's Pluto and Uranus. Does Pluto... What the fuck? Okay. I'm gonna do this one more time. Come on. I hate technology. I wish you could do this shit for me, Rory. I hate pressing all these goddamn buttons. Oh, I love Michael Jackson. I was the biggest Michael Jackson fan as a kid. Oh my goodness. Oh, I love Michael Jackson. Got to be starting something. Got to be starting something. Got to be starting something. Get over, get under. I love Michael Jackson so much. My favorite one was I'm starting with a man in the mirror. I'm hoping he will change his ways. Right? Anyway, I love Michael Jackson. Hell. Hello. Hell. Right? Do you remember the time when we fell in love with Michael? Do you remember the time when we fell in love? Remember the time Michael Jackson? Oh, yeah. Do you remember? Oh, that's what it was. Yeah. It was Michael Jackson. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, gosh. You're so awesome. Thank you. Yes. How does it affect having retro planets on your rising? What are you talking about, Irene? How does it affect having retro planets on your rising sign? We're looking at your progressed chart. So this is your progressed rising. Okay? You're leaving your computer to do dishes, but I'll turn up the volume and be listening in the background. Well, thank you, Dave. You see, when I listen, I follow some live streamers, and I typically listen to them while doing dishes myself. So, or doing laundry, you see. And even when I do other people's charts, it's still interesting. Because I'm interesting. You see? So, Irene, I just want to understand what you were asking about. Because this is your progressed chart right now. You see? You have a progressed gibbous moon, it looks like. It's about a trine. Still a little bit of a first quarter, but gibbous. This is a more optimistic time of your life, sweetheart. So, at least you should be feeling a bit more optimistic. We're sort of looking ahead. And just so you know, because you were born 1963, I believe. My sister was born 1965. I'm a Mason. Most of my friends are in their 70s, you see. And they're enjoying life. They're having the best time of their life, a lot of them right now. You see, so that gives me a lot of hope about aging and a lot of optimism because I turned 40 and all of a sudden it's like, you know. But anyway, I just see so much joy and so many new understandings, right? And so much wisdom that they go through. So, Ms. Jones, first time listening in. What are we doing? We're looking at progressions. So people are putting in their birth information in the chat if they're comfortable doing so. And then I'm looking briefly at their chart and at their progressed chart, because progressions are really, really interesting. So, but back to, and then we got to get to Mike Calhoun. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Just seeing if I see anything. Does Pluto ever go direct by progression? This is sort of interesting too. Let's go ahead 10 years into the future. No. Nope, doesn't happen. Doesn't happen. It happens in 2073. Unless you're going to get your head frozen, you know. Uranus. When did Uranus go direct? I am the being from Uranus. I'm the creature from Uranus. 2060 for Uranus. I'm not really worried about that. You need a taste of your own medicine. I'm gonna look at one more thing. We gotta go to Mike Calhoun. We gotta go to Mike Calhoun. He's been very patient. Very, very, very patient. We are very appreciative of that. What I wanted to look at. Oh, we talked about your progressed full moon. Right, this is going to be around 2030 for you, which is a ways in the future. And then your progressed new moon. Oops. Your progressed new moon. God. Would have been 2015. Summer of 2015. Starting in July of 2015. So I imagine starting in summer 2015 was quite a big year where it felt like starting over from scratch again. You see. Hello, first time being on this channel. You have Love Astrology and layers, and the layers each astrologer add. Are you accepting donations? I sure am, sweetheart. We have super chats. We have super thanks. We have all those wonderful things down below. Or if you'd like my PayPal, I can put that in. Not really. Time goes fast at your age. Well, you know. It is what it is. Let's go to Mike Calhoun. Mike Calhoun. Mike Calhoun. Like Rory Calhoun. My brother is Rory, and then there's Mike Calhoun, and there's Rory Calhoun. Made me think of Rory Calhoun, you know, who was famous for standing and walking. Sorry. What was Mike Calhoun's information? I have it here. 617. We have a Gemini, like me, of 1966. San Francisco in the middle 60s was a very special time and place to be a part of. You could strike sparks anywhere. It's Hunter S. Thompson. Sorry. Rory has that whole thing memorized. I know he does. We don't know what time. Mike, do you know if you were born during the day or at night at least? I'm going to put 12 p.m. Yes, I'm very interesting, huh? Oh, thank you, Shauna. You are so sweet. Yes, I will look at your chart. Yes, we will. We'll get to it very quickly. We're going to take a brief look at Mike Calhoun. And Mike, we have your birth info, and we're just going to put you at 12 noon in Norfolk. 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 Hello, Mike. Oh, wait, hold on. I gotta animate this. What's going on here? Let's try again. Okay, there we go. So, Mike, we don't really know your rising sign. We're just putting you at 12 noon. But we can see a couple of things right off the bat. We can look at progressions and we can see, is anything retrograde? Nothing is retrograde. You were born very close to a new moon, though. You're at the very end of a balsamic moon. You know, and balsamic, it's not just a dressing. The word balsamic means dark. And it's the dark moon. My hero, Demetra George, or one of my heroes, I love her so much. She wrote a book called Secrets of the Dark Moon way back when, before she even got into, I think, ancient astrology. And she had a lot of interesting things to say about it. You see? And so in a way, you are very close to being a new moon baby, you know, which it's like bursting onto the scene. It's very naive. It's, you know, very Aries-like. They just do things without necessarily, you know, thinking about them. Like, look at Madonna. She's a new moon baby. But balsamic babies are a bit different. They're a bit older, wiser, a bit more critical. You see? There's something very Saturnian about them, right? There's something that seems, you know, critical. Or maybe critical is not so much the word. Rather, you know, it's looking away from things. It's deconstructing. In a way, they're looking ahead to the next thing, to the future. But you see, it's the very end of the waning cycle, and the waning cycle is very introspective. And it's not about doing things necessarily, it's about analyzing things. And judging them and picking them apart. I mean, these people tend to have sort of a wise disposition. You know, they feel deep. Yeah? Whereas someone like me, with a gibbous moon, we feel childlike and sort of naive and sort of, you know. So, Chris the Fish. May I watch and ask your spirit for help? Oh, you called me sweet angel. Well, when you put it that way, you know, goodness gracious. Thank you, Chris the Fish. I definitely appreciate it. But anyway, back to Mike here. Ooh, you have Mars conjunct the moon. Maybe mom was sort of a difficult person. And you have Pluto square the moon. Dude, you got mama trauma, don't you? You got mommy issues. Mommy wasn't very nice, I don't think. I don't think mommy was very nice. But I don't know your rising sign, and I don't know the houses. Now, the other thing, too, is your Saturn is in Pisces at the very end of Pisces. So you're in your second Saturn return right now, sweetheart. This is a pivotal time of your life, you see. The next few years are going to be a big turning point in your life. This is the one of two times in your life this happens. First time around 28, 29. And then again around 57, 56, you see? Because the Saturn cycle is 28 years. About 28 years, 28, 29. Old Southern name, hard to live up to. Well, you know. You know, if it wasn't Rory and our mom's favorite movie is Gone with the Wind. Like literally her favorite movie is Gone with the Wind. And her favorite character is Scarlett O'Hara, right? I mean, goodness gracious. So I feel you. Horse? Saturn girl, mama bear. Is this someone from my adult content? Is that what that is? Because, you know, I have people from my adult content. See, I'm on Snapchat too. And I share my astrology and my adult content on Snapchat. And I probably shouldn't keep them commingled. So I don't know if I have someone from my adult content calling me mommy. Because I like to be a mommy. Frequently happens when, we have mommy issues, right? So I relate, Mr. Cal, to the mommy issues. I definitely relate. And mom was probably very unpredictable, a bit erratic, probably had a bad temper, and was a bit domineering and or abusive. So, I mean, that's what it looks like with these sorts of things, rather. I mean, it's not a perfect science. And you have Saturn square the sun, so life has not been easy for you. You've had to work hard for things in life, you see. Oh, you can be here, Chris. I don't care. Just don't expect me to do anything dirty, Although I wish I could. I wish I could just do this all. Maybe I'll start doing that on my my adult streaming page, where I just do people's charts in precarious positions. So funny. The people that like to watch my adult content typically are these really manly, kind of conservative type dudes. It's really interesting. I mean, I'm cute. Who can blame them? It's just interesting that the type of people who tend to be interested in me. So anyway, let's look at your progress chart. And then we got to get to our friend here, Shauna King. We have to get to Shauna. Shauna. Let's look at secondary progressions. Now, we don't know your rising sign, Mike. You are new to the world of tarot. Oh, you're here for tarot only. Well, I have my unicorn deck. You see, I have lots of different decks that I use. I have the Marseille deck. But I use this one because they could tell me that I'm going to die a violent death. And with unicorns and, rainbows, it's a lot more palatable. Obviously, what am I concerned with? I want romance, I mean, I say that, don't I? I mean, I do. I wish I didn't have feelings. I wish I didn't have them. Because they're very inconvenient, you see. So anyway, Mike, your progressed sun is currently in Leo. Well, it's been there for 20 years. What's really interesting, though, is your progressed Venus in just a year? When does this happen? Does my new older love interest want to share and grow? We'll look in just a second, sweetheart. I gotta do Shauna first. And Mike, in 2025, April of 2025, we'll say May, because it's the end of April. Your progressed Venus is going to go into Leo. This is exciting. This is really exciting. I mean, I don't know if you're married or if you have a partner or anything, and I know you're getting older and stuff, but, this is typically a time where relationships happen, relationships happen. Yeah, we saw Miss Jones, but we do have to get, Shauna did the, she donated, so we need to do Shauna quick. We need to do Shauna. And let's move on to Shauna, but this is really interesting, Mike, because 2025 will be a very interesting year for love for you. Or at least in social relations, because Venus isn't just romance, Thank you, Rory. Now, also happening around the same time, or just a few months after, or a year after, rather, in 2026, you're going to have your progressed new moon. And this is a big life event, you see. So this is going to be like starting all over from scratch once again. You're coming up at a big time in your life, my love. You really are. So Mike, you better strap in, Mike. Because life is about to feel like a strap on. You feel me? It's an exciting time. I don't know if you like being pegged, but yeah. It's an exciting time. Now we got to go to Shauna. Shauna, my love. A Virgo. Is this a Virgo? 1983, you're the same age as me, sweetheart. You're my year. And you're a Virgo. If you're single, you better watch out. Thank you, Rory. Thank you. Wait, hold on. 6:26 p.m. Franklin, Indiana. Indiana. Hold on. Wait, what? Franklin? Okay, so there's two Franklins in Indiana. There's Johnson County and there's Wayne County. Were you born in Johnson County or Wayne County? Which one was it? Johnson County or Wayne County? Because there's two different. When I type this stuff into SolarFire, it'll do this. You know what I mean? Cause I cut my teeth and bit my tongue till my mouth was dripping blood. Johnson. Okay. Cause I cut my teeth and bit my tongue till my mouth was dripping blood. I can't get that out of my head. It's Bring Me the Horizon. I love Ollie Sykes. He's so hot. He's so gorgeous. Now Shauna, she donated here, so we gotta give her some special treatment. We got to give her some special treatment. Shauna King. Sweet. There we go. Well, you're a Pisces rising, darling. So what's that mean? It means Saturn is going through your first house right now. I went through this a while back when Saturn was going through Aquarius. I gave a whole little speech earlier about Saturn going through the first house, but I will repeat it for you because you need to hear this, you see? And so Saturn going through our first house it's a big existential time for that 2.5 or nearly 3 years that it sits there. And for me, I came out as trans while Saturn was in my first house. It forces us to face ourselves, right? The first house is self. It's the whole you, mind, body, spirit, right? So you may have things, right, that affect your body. If you have chronic illness like I do, then you'll have flare-ups quite frequently that you have to face. You have physical difficulties that emerge, right? We start to feel older. We start to feel more mature, though, as well, and wiser. But we start thinking about our mortality. We start contemplating death. But most importantly, we get forced to face ourselves and things that we've avoided about ourselves. Yes? If there's something that we haven't really come to terms with or processed, it will probably force itself out around this time. You know, between now and, what is it, early 2026, when Saturn goes into Aries. You know, and Saturn will go in and retrograde out and go back in or whatever. But this whole time, like, it's an uncomfortable time in a way. Sometimes we lose weight, though. That's nice. Oftentimes because we're depressed and we're not eating. But this isn't just about depression. It's about wisdom, you see. Mama's body amazing. No, I feel fat, sweetheart. I I wish. I'm working on exercising again. I took a couple months off. Ugh. I feel like a slug. But Saturn going through your first house it's not fun. I'm not going to lie. But it's something to be thankful for. Because it threshes you. It strips things away. You know, we get stuck in these identifications. We get stuck in conditioning. You know, like, this is just the way I am. Well, is it? Who are you? These are thoughts, feelings, sensations. They're patterns of thinking. You see? We have to face our patterns. The reason why we look at our charts isn't just about sex and money. Although those are my two favorite things. I probably love them more than you do. But this is about a tool for self-development, you see. And Saturn going through the first house forces us to face those things that hold us back, to face our inner obstacles. Guess what? We're our own worst enemies. Because we have misconceptions about ourselves. We take ourselves to be just this, mishmash of crisscrossing and colliding thoughts, feelings, and sensations, right? But is that all you are, Mike, I need your birth time to talk about that stuff, sweetheart. I really do, because I need your houses for that. We can go back and look at some of your stuff, sweetheart, but, I need to ask the question. Juicy, no. Well, you're making me feel better, Chris, that's for sure. Just for you, Chris, I'll take my hoodie off. Because I can at least do that. Plus, it's hot in here. These lights on here, just like so. But anyway, and you have Saturn in the 9th house, too, in your natal chart. So you already, right? You already, since you were a kid, have been asking the big questions in life, haven't you? You see? You've probably already been, as a kid, I bet you were a pain in the butt, weren't you? Because you were like, why? 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 I bet when you were a kid, you were like, how am I here? How is this a thing? Right? How mysterious. Being a being, being a person, being an individual. What is my take on your South Node conjunct your midheaven? Sweetheart, I do mostly traditional astrology. I don't think aspecting points is really something that I pay a lot of attention to. If, say, your ascendant was opposite or square someone else's ascendant, I think that was sort of significant. But no, I don't really think it's all that important that your South Node is conjunct your midheaven. What is important, and there's a couple different ways of looking at it, is your South Node and is your nodal axis being in the 4th and 10th house. Yeah. Because when you see that the first part of life is typically about getting recognition and being successful, right? Oftentimes we want to make our mark. We want to be recognized. We want people to see what we do. And as we get older, we find that life takes on a more introspective feel, right? We start to get interested in, perhaps our past or our genealogy. We get interested in our ancestors, things like that. The 4th house is also, it's the darkest house of the chart, right? It's the midnight spot. It's what we hold closest to ourselves. That's why it was our origins, because it was the obscurity or the darkness, right, that we emerged out of in the east, right, the rising. So you see, the 4th house is also about the mysteries. And when you see the North Node, it's so funny because a lot of people think about, like, in Vedic astrology is the 12th house being the house of liberation, but really it's the 4th house. And I got this too from Madame Ellenboss, who is one of the few astrologers I like, out there right now. Young ones, and by young I mean under the age of 60. So having your North Node in the 4th house, it makes us a bit more inward focused as we get older. Spiritual things you see, when you have Saturn in the 9th house like you do, you're already sort of on a quest for meaning, because we typically have an experience of religion early on that's not nice. A lot of times we get very scientific and skeptical because we get a shitty okay, give it to me then on the traditional. Well, I'm still talking about the modern interpretation of the nodes. If we were going to talk about traditional, in traditional, the South Node decreases things and the North Node increases things. In Vedic astrology, the North Node was what we want, what we crave, to our own detriment. You understand what the nodes are, right? The nodes are the place where the moon's orbit intersects the Earth. What the fuck does that mean? It means these are the eclipsing places. They represent where eclipses happen. Why is that? Because where the moon's orbit intersects the Earth, what's that? It's the place where sun, moon, and Earth align, you see? And so there's something about... My darling Krish, you are allowed. Go ahead, sweetheart. You are allowed. And thank you for asking nicely. Thank you for asking nicely. I haven't been very responsive on Snapchat lately because I've been very busy. Anyway. But you see, you can see the connection between these things, right? Between your nodal axis, right? And the eclipses in 2021 would have taken place between your 4th and 10th house. You see, this would have either been, it's a time of manifesting. So in 2021, you probably either had a big move and or a big job change, right? Life direction change. It would have been a big year for you, 2022. And then, 2021. And then 2022, right, in the eclipse cycle, would have been your 9th and 3rd house. Maybe you went back to school. Maybe you had to do some educational stuff. Or maybe it was that your beliefs totally changed. And you got challenged on your worldview or your politics or the way you understand things spiritually, perhaps. So, and now we're between the 8th and the 2nd house in your eclipse cycle for 2023 and most of 2024, some of 2024. So this has been your money situation and debt. So this is all about cleaning up your finances, learning how to manage your resources. Maybe you got into debt and now it's time to figure out paying things off bit by bit. But you see, the 8th house is also about forgiveness, so accepting on your gifts. Well, yeah, and be grateful. Meister Eckhart, the 13th century theologian. I don't mean Eckhart Tolle, the pig-looking motherfucker. I mean Meister Eckhart, the 13th century Christian mystic. He said, if the only prayer you ever say is thank you, that would be enough. Now, Chris, I sure hope you're doing it right now. My PayPal, yes, sweetheart. I will put... Oh, you see my PayPal's right here. On the Saturn Girl. You see where it says Saturn Girl on my screen? You see that? That's my PayPal. Let's see. There we go. You see this? There we go. There we go. Ugh. Anyway. So, eclipses we talked about. Well, see, then in 2024, late 2024, in September, we're going to have a lunar eclipse in Pisces, which will be your 1st house. It's another existential time for you. Thank you, my dear Chris. I really appreciate it. So, anyway, this is a very exciting time for you, Shauna. You're going through massive changes in yourself. This is very exciting. And we'll look at progressions because that's quite interesting. You see, but you were probably, I mean, you either had, you have Saturn trine your rising, that's wonderful. But you probably had a difficult childhood. I imagine, was dad like either absent or, oh, I think it's going to be good. It's about learning more about yourself. You did receive an inheritance. Should have done better at job investing. You're on it. Oh, sweetheart, I'm so sorry. Well, and that's the other thing about the eighth house is it's death. And that's sort of a touchy thing. I don't always like to be so blunt about it, but yeah, I mean, the eighth house is death, sweetheart. So yeah. And Libra. So Libra's your eighth house. You're also a Libra moon like me, conjunct Pluto. You have mama trauma, don't you? Was mom not a very, very nice person? Either that or you're on the bipolar coaster. We have high highs and low lows. I'm moon conjunct Pluto also. So, you know. We feel things deeply. Yeah. And we're also very creepy people. You know. Yeah. Thank you so well. Thank you so much, sweetheart, for subscribing. Please do. I do wonderful videos. I need to go live more often. I've been gone at like a spiritual retreat for a week, so I wasn't live for a while. Yeah, very bad childhood. Chiron in the fourth house. That's why I said it like that. You see, I wonder if one or both of your parents was religious also. But yeah, you know, you got closer towards the end of his life. That's wonderful. You know, but you see, with your North Node being in the fourth house and your Chiron being there, there's this whole thing about what? About learning to be that strength and support that you never had. You know, the Buddha said, learn to be your own refuge. You know, our parents can't be our own refuge. And one of the advantages about not really having that supportive parents growing up is that we have to become aware of this, you see. When is it your turn, Chris? When is it your turn for what, sweetheart? Did you give me your birth information? I don't know what you mean, your turn. Your mom had severe trauma. We have some of the same trauma, right? Well, with Pluto and the moon in the eighth house, it's probably sexual trauma. It's like you inherited so much from her, but she's my best friend. She's a rock. Crazy, but well, yeah, so the crazy thing sort of. With Pluto moms, you know, my mom is, well, I have moon conjunct Pluto, and my mom's a bit out there, you know. Oh, that's right, tarot reading. But before we get to Chris, we'll look at Shauna's progressed. And besides Shauna, we had, who was it? Who else was besides Shauna? Who was the other person? Anyway, well, let's look at Shauna's progressed and we'll pull some cards for Chris the Fish. So I cut my teeth and bit my tongue till my mouth was dripping blood. Wait, do you have any retrogrades? Mercury. And Venus. Oh, that sucks. Hard to relate to people, isn't it? And Venus went direct, as did Mercury. Oh shit. Check it out. You're like really close to your progressed full moon. So my sweet darling, you're reaching a high point or a zenith in your life. In 2025, summer of 2025. Very potent time of life for you. Now, I don't know what the quality will be. Typically, this is like a high point where it's... Oh, shit. Here we go. There we go. You see here? Sun, moon, It's a full moon, but it's a progressed full moon. You only have 2 or 3 of these in your entire lifetime. So this is very important, darling. This is very, very important. It often feels like a highlight, a high point in life, you see? So, I don't know what you're talking about with Venus. But this is very important, 2025. So just mark this on your calendar. What else was I looking at with progressed? I was trying to figure out when Venus went direct. Venus went direct early on in your life, so this is like not even worth looking at. It was really early in life, so not even worth looking at. Well, it's hard to tell. So Shauna said, "Oh my, I hope a good high point." That's the thing with progressions, is we can't always tell the quality of the whole thing. You see? Like, for example, my progressed new moon, my dad passed away. My progressed full moon was right before I got divorced. It was when I had the house and the fence and the dog and the job and the child and the wife. You see? So it manifests in different ways for different people. We could look and see if you had a, you know, a traumatic new moon. So this would have been 2010, starting March of 2010. So was that a traumatic time? Yes, it's a big pivotal time, sweetheart. It's a big, big pivotal time. The other thing you have to be aware of the 8th house. The 8th house is also forgiveness. We store our trauma in the 8th house. The 8th house is 3 primary things. It's debt, it's death, right? And other people's resources. But see, we put forgiveness in there too. We put our traumas and stuff in there too, because those are debts. Those are emotional debts. That's how I reason that out. You know, the 8th house is not sex, right? But it is trauma. Worst time of your life in 2010, right? So just be aware of that. Divorce and your mother died in a car accident. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. Mine was traumatic too. So my dad took his own life, you know? So I feel you, darling. I feel you. But you're going to be approaching a high point in your life in 2025. And so I don't necessarily know if it's going to be bad or good, but there probably will be difficult times that correlate with it, you see. All that happened in 2010, you see? And that was all around your progressed new moon, right? You could see how all that stuff sort of correlates. Anyway. Oh, brother. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Your brother. How much to donate to the goddess? Show her pay. Oh, you can just donate $20, sweetheart. That's okay. That's all you need to do. That'll be fine. That'll do, Chris. That'll do. Anyway, we who else do we need to look at? Or whatever you want, Chris. Don't feel obligated. But let's pull cards for you. And then I think Mike had another question. Magical Vacations by Alicia. Do I do any lot releasing readings? Do you mean do I do zodiacal releasing magical vacations? Yes, I do zodiacal releasing. I typically don't do a lot of that on lives, though. I do that for paid readings, you see. But yes, I do. Oh, Miss Jones. That's who it was. Miss Jones. I'm sorry, Miss Jackson. Like Jinx, or was that telling me something? No, I just missaid something. Oh, yes, please subscribe. I have a lot of wonderful things. And there's so much good educational information I do in videos on here too. You know, I do really good readings. Obviously, I just sort of did a little bit for you. So, we need to look at Miss Jones. Rory, did you get Miss Jones's information? Did you get Miss Jones? I'm sorry, Miss Jackson. That's what I keep thinking about. I'm sorry, Miss Jackson. Where's Miss Jones' information? Where's Ms. Jones? Rory, did you write down Ms. Jones stuff? Oh, please do book a reading. My website is frankielynch.com. You can book there, or you can, message me through, you can email me at frankielynch777@gmail.com. Or you can message me through Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or TikTok or any of these crazy motherfuckers. So, I'm sorry, Miss Jackson. Oh, you're fine. It's okay. It's okay. And I will give you a tarot reading, and at least you called me a goddess. That'll do. That'll do. Because I am a goddess. I'm sorry. It's just... My mama's Inanna, the goddess of love and war. She's my mommy. She's my mommy. I mean, I like being a mommy, but she is my mommy. Pardon me. So I cut my teeth and bend my tongue till my mouth is dripping blood. Huh. Making you melt. You're so sweet. You are so sweet, Chris. I wish I could mix my audiences together. In a way. It would be hilarious. Alexandria, Virginia. Because the guys that follow me on my adult content, they all want me to dominate them. It's fun. It's so much fun. They typically want me to dominate them. Okay. What did you do with it? Did you get a grip? Okay, here we go. So this is Ms. Jones. Ms. Jones, Scorpio rising. So 2022 was a crazy fucking year for you. Because you had the eclipses oscillating between your first and seventh houses. So probably in April of 2022, you went, between April and October, you probably went through a big breakup or some relationship shit that led you to a big existential crisis in October of 2022. Or just after that, where it's like, why me? What's this all mean? What is all this nonsense, right? But now you've been in your cocoon phase, right? Between the 6th and 12th house. So in this whole thing, this eclipse since October of this year, 2023, oh, please don't say yes, sir. I'm not a sir. I'm a ma'am. If you say sir, we're going to cut this shit off right now because I don't play fucking, being misgendered. I don't have time for that, okay? I'm not a sir. So, if that was a mistake, I get it. It's cool. But, yeah, I don't have... I get harassed all the time with this sort of nonsense. I do. I get people messaging me, telling me to off myself. People threatening to hurt me. And all this, and at the same time, calling me a man and all this bullshit. I don't play with that. I don't put up with it. So, you could tell me right now if it was a mistake. And if you apologize, because I don't play with that. Okay. No, I know. That's fine. If that I don't put up with Sir though. I don't listen to Sir. I don't deal with Sir. I don't. Okay. I understand. This is a soft spot for me. This is a sensitive spot for me. And when you get death threats very regularly, it's something that you get rigid about. So I get threats very regularly. And they love to say stuff like sir and all that stuff in the middle of it too. Even in kink situations, I'm ma'am or miss or mistress. I don't do sir. So, and it's a soft spot for me. So, that's all. Anyway. Oh, thank you, Chris. I know. Yeah, it is pretty unfortunate. So, I got a lot of hate just a week or so ago with people telling me to, or people threatening me. So, I'm a woman. I'm not a sir. Anyway. Yeah, if I seem like I'm overreacting, you just have to understand the context. And I think I painted the context pretty well. So anyway, you're in your cocoon phase. You probably have to focus on mental health and focus on physical health for a little bit, because we're having to process and internalize a lot of big changes that we weren't really expecting, especially existential changes, you see? Because your first house was pronounced before. You're not hating. It was an honest miswrite. Okay, that's fine. Just want to be clear, that's all. I want to be clear in my position. Because I don't, and people think I overreact about this, but I don't have time for compromise. When you get your life threatened regularly, you don't have time for apologies and mistakes and all this sort of thing. You understand why it would be sort of, why I would have a reaction, So, and other people might disagree, but no, I understand. You just said it. It was a mistake. I'm just saying that this is something that I have to deal with on the regular, and so I'm a very aggressive, angry person when it comes to this, because if I don't stick up for myself, no one else will. So, and I've had people assault me in public. I've had people physically assault me in public. Being trans is no fucking joke. Telling you. It's the most rewarding thing I've done in my life after having my daughter. But at the same time, it's very difficult because people want to assault you and they want to take your life. I have people frequently telling me they want to take my life. So I just want to make sure that's clear why I react the way I do. So that's why I get that look in my... So anyway. But we have to look at progressions here in just a second. The eclipses are what are most interesting to me. It's where I start because it's this whole 18-year cycle. And it's part of what I call the eclipse cycle, which is about the maturation of consciousness, really. Oh, goodness. See, Saturn's going through your 5th house. This is not a fun time for you. This is a time when you feel like you can't have fun. And if you have children, your focus is going to, they're probably going to be having a rough time. You see, your natal Mars is in your 5th house, like mine is. It makes us very sexual people on the one hand, but also very licentious on the other. Like, oftentimes we don't know when to quit, or we tend to pursue pleasure to our own detriment sometimes. The other thing that happens is we have high expectations of our children. you know. Fifth house Mars people are the ones that tell their kids, like, well, you got a B, but it sure ain't no fucking A. You know, I want to see A's. That's a fifth house Mars. We want our kids to be the best, right? My kid's number one. My kid's the best. You know, and we oftentimes push our kids with these high expectations, you see, which isn't necessarily bad to want the best for our children, but sometimes it can make us a bit, you know, a bit pushy with them. So now when you see people born female with a fifth house Mars, we think of C-sections or difficult pregnancies as well, you know. So I don't know if C-sections were a particular thing, but we do see that there. Now, you have to be careful. You're almost a new moon, baby. You're like at the tail end of balsamic. But you have to be careful with that 12th house moon. Is it aspect? What's it aspecting? Anything? No. When you have a 12th house moon, you just have to be careful with addiction and depression, you know. Those can be difficult things that we have to face, you see. Saturn's in your 9th house, like I have it, right? We typically have a bad experience of religion growing up. You know, and oftentimes, you see 9th house Saturns, what we like best are religions that our parents don't belong to, you know. We either become very skeptical, scientific people who don't believe in anything, or we get into weird, you know, conspiracy nonsense and like all kinds of weird religion theories and stuff like that. Or you can do both, you know. Does my love interest submit and let me look over her? Or doesn't she submit? Sweetheart, I'm a switch, but I'm typically the dominant girl. I usually only switch for women. Powerful women. I don't usually switch for men, except for a few men. It's about presence. To me, dominance and submission is contextual. I'm usually the dominant person, just because that's my energy. But if someone else has that right energy, then I'm just like, I'm a clam. Yeah. So. But anyway, you just have to be careful with, well, Libra moons really want to be liked. You know, they want to make everyone happy. It's very tedious to have a Libra moon, isn't it? You see? Venus in the 8th house. It's all about forgiveness. You know, we have, when Venus is in the 8th house, what houses does Venus rule? The 12th and the 7th. You like bad boys. You like bad boys and girls. You are interested in criminals. You were interested in people who were up to no good, weren't you? You were interested in the dangerous people. The dangerous people. Saturn in the 8th house. What are you talking about? Is your information correct? April the 24th, 1975. 9:56 p.m. And I only do whole sign houses. I don't do Placidus. I don't do bullshit. You know, we do whole sign houses here. Saturn in the 8th house. Maybe in Placidus. Is your information correct? Isn't true dominance submitting and trusting? There is no true fucking dominance. There's no such thing as true dominance. It's all contextual because there is no ultimate truth. Nothing is independent. This is what the Buddhists taught us. Everything is relative. You see? Is that it? I don't do Placidus. Placidus is fucking bullshit. I've been doing astrology for 18 years. I did Placidus almost exclusively for 15 years. Over it. As soon as I started learning ancient astrology, I dispensed with all that. Robert Hand, right? One of the greatest astrologers we have in the modern era. He said, whole sign houses just work better. I've practiced enough with this at this point to where this is my thing. So I see the validity of it. So looking over my boss at work. Any ideas to help her teach me? I'd have to know more about your situation. I'd have to know more about your situation, sweetheart. Yeah, I'm 40 years old. I started with this when I was 22. 22. When I really got into it. See, I became a Mason at 22. And that's where I got really focused in esoteric astrology and theosophy and all that modern nonsense. It wasn't until I was probably, 36 or 37? 36, I guess. When I really started getting into ancient astrology. So, and it's very practical. Very practical. Anyway, we should really look at your progressions. And I got to do a tarot reading for my simp here. So. Did you have anything retrograde? Pluto, Uranus, nothing interesting. Does Pluto ever go direct by progression? Oh, yeah, we'll look at that. We'll look at that. For you, Chris the Fish. Yes, we'll look at that. I have a few love interests, too. There was one young lady that I was very, very interested in, but she's too busy for me. And that's fine. That's fine. I'm going to do my own thing. And she can hit me up if she's, if she wants to. I think she should. But I'm biased, and I wouldn't trust my opinion on this matter. So anyway. Oh my God, I've already gone over. You're a Taurus if it helps. Well, doesn't help you. I'm kidding. So anyway, progressions. So you really just came out of very recently out of a progressed new moon. So you've just been through a lot of shit. January 2021. So January 6th, the day all that bullshit was happening in the Capitol, you were having your progressed new moon. So 2021 was a fucked up year for you, wasn't it? Very difficult. Yeah? Am I tripping? Am I tripping? I want to hear from you. Ms. Jackson. Sorry, Ms. Jackson. Ms. Jones Jackson. No relation to Tommy Lee Jones, right? Want to check every farmhouse, hen house, outhouse. Right? The fugitive. That's. I didn't kill my wife. I don't care. So I think about Mercury retrograde. It's like Harrison Ford says, I'm usually well-spoken, organized, and thought out. And Mercury's like Tommy Lee Jones. I don't care. 2019 on been bad. Yeah, but I'm, thinking specifically about your progressed new moon. But yeah, I mean, it would be 2020 leading into 2021. So anyway, that's quite interesting. When did progressed Mercury go? See, that was 2010. I think we already talked about, no, that was Shauna. 2010, though, would have been. Yeah, end of 2009 going into 2010 when your Mercury was going retrograde. Could I do a video on Neptune entering Pisces? I mean, oh, Aries. There you go. There you go. I guess I could. Yeah, I guess I could. Like you said, got with a bad boy who broke your heart, went back earlier this year, and been in hermit mode since June. Sounds about right. Let me see your regular chart again, your birth chart. Since June. See, Jupiter went into Taurus, your 7th house, around then. End of May, beginning of June. That's your 7th house of partnerships. So being overly optimistic about some of that stuff. And Jupiter was sort of close to your sun there. You're a Taurus Mercury like me too. It makes it, we're slow. We're slower people, you know. We're the last people to get jokes in a group, you see. Chris, do you follow my adult content just by any chance? Because you probably should if you're that interested. Shut. Anyway, let's do a tarot reading for Chris. So this is about your love interest. Is that correct, Chris? Your love interest. We woke together, work together. She sits across from you at work. She always gets me to look over and work, etc. So I'm going to assume this is about your love interest. I'm going to assume this is about your... Is this about your love interest, Mr. Chris? What is your question here, my darling? Like, I am her boss, but she tries to dominate at work. Please help. You are her boss. If you are her boss, you have an obligation to behave like a boss. What does a boss do? A boss keeps very clear lines. If you are her boss, you should look elsewhere. If you are her boss, you should not be messing with her because that's a conflict of interest. That's a conflict of interest, and no, a boss should not be messing with employees. I was a manager. I was a restaurant manager for 15 years. You see? I've seen some of the most wacky situations. You know, I used to work in Southern California. I had an employee whose sister got kidnapped by drug dealers, you know. I've had all kinds of crazy situations happen. I married a woman from work at one point. You should not be messing with employees. And I'll pull some cards. I'll pull 3 cards that will tell us about the situation. Number 1, the nature of the situation. Number 2, how about this? First card, what you want. Second card, or how they feel about you. Third card, the outcome. But no, you should not be messing with people at work. I know for some of us, it's hard to meet people elsewhere because we don't get out. But guess what you got to do? You got to get the fuck out of your room and do shit and meet people. I started meeting a lot of people when I started going to events. You see? So first card, You already have a thing, just not serious. But she tries to dominate and likes to make me look over at her. She wears little. So you're saying you know, right? You're not projecting this on her, right? You know that she does this. Yes. You know that she does this on purpose. Is this something she told you? Because a lot of times people make up these things in their heads. And what does it mean that she tries to dominate you? Anyway, I gotta go. Like, I just went a half an hour over on this shit. I usually get off right at the top of the hour. Anyway, the first card here is the King of Swords, right? The counsel here is to use your head and to think soberly about these things and not get caught off into emotional nonsense, because it can be very dicey when it comes to work, can it? You know, you could get in your own hot water with HR and whatever else. And it affects your work too when you start finding emotional, you know. Not at all. I don't know. Not at all. Don't mess with people at work at all. I don't know. You run a big risk. Let me just tell you that. I would say no, not at all. I would say no, not at all. But I also met my ex-wife at work. So, you know, there you go. Never doing that again. Never, ever, ever doing that again. The second card is the Seven of Wands. This has to do with her, right? And what she wants. She's going through her own shit, right? This card typically means that we're facing obstacles and oppositions, but that we have the high ground and that we have the courage to go through. So she's going through her own stuff. She's facing courage. I should probably start wrapping it up. Yes, you're correct, Rory. Now, this is the outcome, and this is the Page of Cups. You see, and when you see the Page of Cups, there's some sort of emotions there. So there's the Page of Cups is receptivity, right? It's receptivity towards love and relationships and things like that. So she may be receptive. So maybe there is something there. I would just caution you to try and keep things very clear, right? And make sure you don't get yourself in trouble at work. It's very important. Now that I saw the Page of Cups, I think that there might be something there. I think you might be right. But you got to take it slow, and you have to be a bit, you know, I mean, be yourself. Be yourself, of course, but don't be fucking stupid. You know, don't do naughty things at work. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't bring that stuff where if you're a boss, you have a responsibility to your employees. You have a responsibility in the workplace. You have to make the workplace safe. You have to make it inclusive. You have to make it, you know, a fair place and equitable. The minute you start developing like these relationships and it bleeds into your work, you're going to be having favoritism. You see? So I would just caution you to be very careful. Anyway, I better start wrapping it up, you know. I've gone for 2 hours and 30 minutes. I only meant to do 2 hours. So she brings it, not you. So that's where you have to be careful, right? I mean, I got feelings for someone very quickly. But I've just distanced myself, you know, so I can focus on whatever. And if they want to hit me up, they can hit me up. You know. But in the end, right, always cleans under the desk. She brings it, Naya. You know, it looks like there's something there, like I said. And she's bringing it, right, the Page of Cups. You need to be sober, though, and keep your wits about yourself. And assuming that you have a penis, You need to teach it to be cool, right? Like, give yourself a lot of extra attention so you're not like doing stupid things thinking that you're going to get until she says clearly what she wants. You can't assume anything. What's my live schedule? I mean, I try and go live Mondays or Tuesdays typically. So, but it's been a couple of weeks. Anyway, I love you all. I love you all. I'm gonna go because I gotta have me time. She does Placidus. Yeah, I don't do fucking Placidus. I don't do no fucking Placidus. There's no Placidus here. We don't do Placidus here. We do whole sign. Anyway, love you all.